Natello. I'm the owner of DotCom. This is a recording of the presentation that I gave at the 2024 Fence Business Conference held by Tony Thornton in Branson, Missouri on December 3rd. It is kind of my keynote speech is what we call your website sucks and Google hates you. And for anyone who has ever seen this presentation before, approximately 2 out of every 3 slides here I'm going to show you today are brand new as of just like literally a week ago with the latest information that from Google's updates. And so this is definitely timely, important information. But my team did test, this is very important, my team did a full digital health report for the 23 companies that were registered to attend this event that we had in our list. And so I had provided this list here. So whether you are on this list or not on this list, I do want you to know that you can reach out to me directly and we will run a full, very helpful digital health report for you and be very happy to email that to you and go over the details of that. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us because it is a very helpful report. And I would also encourage you, whether you attended the event or not, that there's a lot of information that's about to hit you. And I would recommend that don't try to do everything and fix everything and become an expert at everything. Find the 1 or 2 most important things and do those things. Focus on the 1 or 2 things and make sure they get done. And then you have this recording. You could always go back and then go tackle other items. And then one additional kind of alert here or notice is that I strongly recommend as a fence professional that you should know this stuff to manage it, not to do it. You are already busy enough, working hard enough in managing your fence company. You have more than enough work to do that. You are not also a web designer, but you also can't manage what you don't understand. So it's very important that you understand this, not so you could do it, but so that you can manage it, because you cannot outsource success. If you have ever hired an employee ever, I don't care if it's a web person or an installer or anything else, if you simply hire that person and be like, all right, well, go do this thing and I'll check in with you in 6 months or a year, that would not be a successful relationship. Unfortunately, I see that happen with a lot of fence companies where they hire digital marketing agencies or web designers and they're like, well, thank God those people know what they're doing. I'm just going to let them do it. And that is not a path to success. You definitely need to understand these things that we're talking about so that you can hold people accountable. All right. So let's jump right into it here. Section 1 is how do you rank on Google? A great way to start is to avoid what we call Google suicide. So a great way to rank on Google is learning what not to do to fix the big problems that could be killing you. So one of the very first things that you should do is type your web address simply into a browser. Just open up a browser, type your web address in there, hit enter. And when you hit enter, you should see a lock right there. So this is a simple visual check. If there is a lock, that says that you have an SSL certificate, and that's what Google wants. And if that's the case, you pass. Now, for all of the people in the room, I was having fun to see who sucked. And so for everybody that was in attendance at the event, everybody did pass that test. I hope you passed that test as well, so nobody sucked yet. This URL here, sitecheck.security.net, you can run this test. Go here to this free site. You type your address, your web address here, and it will tell you if you have any malware, make sure your site's not blacklisted. You want all green here. These are very important things. If you had malware, if your site's blacklisted, this right away means Google is not going to rank you. These are huge problems. It's amazing. Sometimes I see SEO companies that are working hard even. They might even be trying to do a good job and working really hard, but they forgot to do just some of the basics of just making sure that you're not blacklisted. All the SEO in the world is not going to get you ranked if you're already blacklisted. We got to get you removed from the blacklist first. So things have to be done properly and in the proper order. And for the folks that were in the room, there were some issues there. If you run any of these tests and you have issues, make sure you reach out to me. immediately, and we can help you understand, or put us in touch with your web people, and we'll help them understand how to fix any of these things. The third test in the Google suicide list is your website mobile friendly. This is another thing that Google's been very specific about. They want your website to be mobile friendly because they want people to have a positive user experience. And since over half of all the website traffic now comes from mobile devices, it is critical that your website is mobile friendly. So you could go to this URL, which I will again put in the notes in the email, and simply add your web address right here, and you will get a very simple test message back that tells you it is mobile friendly or it's not mobile friendly. It's that simple. Again, how to fix that is up to a web professional, but you should know that. It's also worth mentioning that these tests should be conducted many times throughout the year. Every single time that you or your web team are in there, even if you add a blog or you update the website, you are introducing new items, new content. So things that used to be okay in the past may not be okay in the future. There wasn't a problem, but then the last time you were just in the site updating it, you actually introduced a problem. And so this is a test that should be run. All of these tests should be run several times a year. All right. And for this particular test here, this mobile friendly, we did have a couple of people in the room that didn't pass that test. That absolutely has to be fixed. If you fail any of these tests, Google is going to hurt you on the rankings for sure. This tool here, this test is a very, very important test. All of these are all Google suicide items. So you could go to tools.pingdom.com. Very similar to any of the other tests. You simply put your domain name in, start the test, and you're going to get some items back. Now, all of these are important, but what we're particularly interested in is the load time. If you're a web professional like we are at DotCom, every single one of these numbers would matter very much to us. But the easy one to understand here is the load time. Google has been very clear. If it takes more than 2 seconds for your website to load, they will penalize you. They will derank you in their list. So put your web address in there, test it, make sure. Now, when you do this, this is a test at that moment for your load speed. Our recommendation is that you actually run this test multiple times across a few different days at different times of the day to see how your server and the web traffic on the internet is affecting your load speed. If you are anywhere near 2 seconds at any one of those times, then that's a reason to be concerned. But just running this one test one time is not a valid result. You do need to run this a few times. Now, there are pro tools for all of these things. We at .com use the pro tools, but it's important to me that we give you guys the ability to run your own tests. So we're showing you all free websites whose tests are good and we believe in, and I think they will be helpful to you. So I added a slide here because I have had some folks that have wanted to argue with me about some of these things. And so what I did is I want to show you, like, we're not making this stuff up. This is coming directly from Google Search Central. This is right from Google. And you can see, if you want to pause this and read all this here, that over time, going back as far as 2018, 2020, 2021, you can see the history of what Google is saying about load speed. And you can see that, this is not .com's opinion. This is Google. So this is all legit and valid stuff. And then we just simply ran a test of who was loading, all the people that were in the room or were registered for this event. We went down, and you can see that there were some folks that were over 2 seconds. Some of them are significantly over 2 seconds. I do want to mention with the speed test that faster is not automatically better. The only thing Google says is they just want it to load under 2 seconds. Anything beyond that is fine. Sometimes there's actually bad reasons for a website to load super fast. If your site is just horrible, has like no video, no photos, no interesting features at all, then the website potentially would load really fast because the website kind of sucks. So it is not like better to necessarily to load way faster than 2 seconds. As long as you're under 2 seconds, you're good. All right, code validation is our last test here. You could go to validator.w3.org, and just like everything else, you could put your web address in there, and then it will give you a list of either errors or warnings, and it takes a web professional to know how to fix this stuff, no question about it. But what you're looking for is a very low number or zero. It's very hard to be at zero and to stay at zero, because again, as soon as you update your website at all, what happens is you've just added new code, and that code may all of a sudden have a couple of minor errors. Not all errors are created equal. Some errors are minor errors, some are more major, some are critical errors. Even one critical error is a huge problem. Again, I've had folks that have wanted to argue with me about this. I'm not sure why, but so I added a slide here from Google that is going back to 2021 about what Google has to say about code errors and what this all means. And as recently as just a few months ago, Google is recommending fixing all code errors. So this is really a thing. Google cares about it. If your code sucks, Google will penalize you. And then in the audience, and I think it's helpful to see how different folks do. You can see there are actually some folks that have 0 errors, or like 1 or 2 or 3, and that's a great, as long as they're not critical errors, that's a great result. And then you can see how fast it can start to go up. But this is still good. This is still absolutely within an acceptable range as long as they're not major errors. But you can see how bad it can get. I mean, we're getting into the hundreds and hundreds of errors, and or even fatal errors are definitely a problem, and that is death as far as it goes to Google rankings. Now, it is worth saying that there are times where folks would have argued with me because they're like, well, I'm not performing very well on your tests, but I'm the #1 ranked company in my area, so you must be wrong. And so what I would say to that is that sometimes you win because you're the best and really good. Sometimes you win because you just suck less than the other people in your area suck. And so obviously none of us want to win because we suck, but we just suck less. So this is all valid depending on where you are. If you're in a major market like a Dallas, a Houston, Tampa, Atlanta, I mean, there's a lot of very serious competitive major markets. If you had these kinds of problems, you get crushed. There'd be several companies in the area that would just blow you away on Google rankings. If you're in a small market or a less aggressive market, then you might get away with a lot of problems here and still be ranked in like #1, #2, #3, not fully realizing how big the problem actually is until some young company who's barely ever even put in a fence all of a sudden starts outranking you, and you're like, how is this brand new company outranking me? And then what you'll find out is like it's not safe to suck. Like you got to do a good job. All right, so that is the end of Google Suicide. I hope that was helpful to you. And remember, you need to check this frequently, and you need to hold your web people accountable. If you have hired a digital marketing agency or a web designer, and if you are paying them for SEO, and if all that's true and you failed on even one of these tests, I would strongly consider that you decide whether they're still worth working, because this isn't the maximum. This is like the bare minimum. And unfortunately, I see a lot of fence companies that do pay SEO people that have horrible test results. And I would argue that you are not getting your money's worth at all. All right. Section 2 is your digital health overall. So this is a great tool that you can put your web address in, and you can see what your page authority is and what your domain authority is. On a scale of 0 to 100, how authoritative does Google feel you are? And this is for like your site overall, or in this case, the page. This is your home page. But you also could run this test for each and every one of your pages. So sometimes it happens that you might really rank well for some keywords, but then there's other keywords that you don't rank as well for. And this is one of the reasons. Like each and every page has its own page authority. So you might have a situation where your wood page, it has a really good score, but your vinyl page has a terrible score or something like that. Now, how you get a better score is a little bit outside the scope of this conversation. That would be kind of one-on-one consulting. Let me know if you want to talk about that stuff. We could talk about how that happens, but you should know what Google thinks of you. So on a scale of 0 to 100, how are you doing? And again, in comparison to your local competitors, you can run this test on yourself. You can also run this test on all of your local competitors. And now you can get some really useful competitive research. And so what you're going to see here is we did a list, and this will help you understand, put these numbers into context. So here were the best. This was my company here. These were all the best ones in the room. And you can see these red arrows and numbers are beyond the scope of kind of what we're talking about here. But you can see it's going down. Once you get down to kind of 16, 15, 14 down here, it's yellow now because it's not quite as good. And then once you get into the red, that's a bad place to be. Now, it's all relevant because if you, let's say Midwest Fence Pros here on this list is only an 8, and that kind of sucks. But if they just started working with an SEO guy within the last month or two, then 8 is okay because 8's on its way up. So you can't just look at the number. You kind of have to understand what got you there in the first place. And you come back in another month or two, and maybe this is up to 9 and up to 10, and then they're starting to get better and better. So just because there's a terrible score, you also have to understand what's going on. But anything down here, like none of these people would probably rank very well in their local market if they're in red. So that's a problem. Next test. This is a great test, majestic.com. And when you put your web address into here, you're going to get a lot of different pieces of information. Now, it's way beyond the scope of this particular video to go through all of these pieces of info. We're focusing in on this one piece right over here, the trust. If Google doesn't trust you, they don't want to rank you. It's pretty obvious. So again, on a scale of 0 to 100, how much does Google trust you? And if they trust you more than most of your local competitors, then you're probably going to rank well. And if they trust you less, then they're not going to. So you can see here, in this particular test, I only put the people on this list who scored poorly. So anybody who was under a 10 out of 100 is not a very good score for trust. And you can see who the people that were in the room. But I think even if you're not listed here, there is value to understanding and seeing a whole bunch of companies, and that would help you rank yourself to see where you stand. So that's all we did there. So again, just having some fun, just being silly, tongue in cheek. Of the people that were in the room, these are the people that have been performing the worst up to that point. Again, if you want to get a full digital health report, you can scan this QR code, or you can simply email me. Make sure that you give us your domain name, and that we will run a full digital health report. What I've given you up to this point is just a partial one. You could get some really good information from there. And then where this gets really powerful, this is kind of what a competitive report might look like, where you're looking at yourself and all of your local competitors, and it's all color coded out. If you're beating them, then the scores show up in green. If you're losing to them, the scores show up in red. The darker the red or the darker the green, the better you're doing. And so it's a great report. We do not do the full competitive reports for free. We do that for our clients for sure. But this is actually a report that you guys could kind of run on your own if you wanted. You have all the tools available, and it just takes the time to check all these tests for yourself, and then check all these tests against your competitors and put them all on a list. And you could get a really good idea of where you stand. Any digital marketing agency that you work with should go in great detail into the competitive report to see exactly what kind of actions they need to take to help you to get to win. All right, section 3, let's get into some expert insights. Where I was talking about here in the expert insights is that very small changes in the way that you search for things can lead to some interesting different results. So I was using Evansville Fence Company, which is Mr. Fence, a great client and friend of ours, to show that these are the rankings as of today when you do a search for Evansville Fence Company. But if you did a search for Evansville Privacy Fence, you will notice that some of these guys have shuffled around. Some of them dropped. This guy rose a spot. This one here actually wasn't listed at all in this list, and yet now they're all of a sudden number 2 in this list. Still fences, but it's a different search. In this case, they were looking for privacy fence. And then we're looking at some real serious nuances that matter. I'm really excited to show this to you. So if we did a search for like fence company, now in this particular case, we're talking about in the Panama City area, Mr. Fence of Florida, different client, Josh Glover, great guy, is our friend and client here. And so we're kind of taking a look at what happened there. If you notice, we changed from fence company to fence contractor, and I put a couple of red arrows here to show you where the differences are. Fence company, fence contractor, slightly different results. Fencing company, even slightly different results. And finally, fencing contractor, a little bit different results. So the little nuances in the way people are searching does impact what shows up here. Even more so, this is really crazy to me, is if we added the word Florida here, and I left some of the stuff out here, like fence company in Panama City, Florida, and then we got a certain list. Instead of spelling out Florida, we just used the abbreviation FL, and you got different list. And then just Panama City without adding the word Florida or FL, and you got a slightly different list. So all of these little variations matter, and where they really matter is that you can see that it's not the same amount of searches. Within 50 miles of Panama City, Florida, fence company near me has literally 6 times the traffic that fence contractor has, and all the way down to fence installer has very, very little traffic, but it still has some. So the wording that you use on your website and what you're targeting to try to rank for, your web people are trying to target, I hope they know what they're doing, because this is not equivalent. Each one of these has a different amount of search traffic, and the type of wording that you use on your website will invite different kinds of rankings. So those kinds of issues matter. So keywords and optimizations, this is still part of the expert insights. Like how do we rank? Well, so to you, when you look at this website, this is what your eyes see. This is the Mr. Fence, Sean King, Mr. Fence. Most people know Sean. And here is his website. But this is what it looks like to us. To Google, this is silly. My guys are so funny. To Google, this is what it looks like. It's code, right? It looks like this to you, but it looks like this to Google. So what happens here is, even if you can dig down even deeper, like one particular photo you can dig in, and that photo, this is what it looks like to Google. Google doesn't see the photo as well as you do. Now, Google's gotten better with that. It kind of sees the photo, but this is the code that makes that photo happen under the scenes, even if you're not familiar with it. If you took a picture with your phone or a digital camera, it will assign, I'm sure we've all seen this, where your phone or your camera gives it like some stupid name here. And but if you have an SEO expert would come and rename that photo using keywords like, oh no, this is a vinyl privacy fence in Evansville. That's a way better. This is what we call optimizing an image, renaming the file itself. There's also a description that your phone would just match these two things up, and it's meaningless. And when you optimize an image, then your web designer would come in and say, hey, no, this is a 6-foot tan vinyl privacy fence in Evansville, Indiana. So if you had 2 websites that were identical in every way, except that one site did not optimize and just took what the camera gave them, versus the other site where they went through every single image and optimized each image, you can see pretty clearly Google would way prefer this one than this one. And so that's why we take the time to go ahead and do that. But you can actually go even one level deeper on images. There's what we call metadata behind the scenes, where when you take the photo, the GPS location of where that photo was taken is actually recorded. And Google likes great authentic content. So Google can tell where that photo was taken. So that's a very important thing. And I just encouraged the people that were in the room that when you take photos on a camera, on your phone, that to make sure that the geolocation is turned on so that you capture that information. Again, any questions that any of you have about any of this stuff, even the web people that you work with may not be familiar with some of these things. Contact us and we're happy to help walk you through that process, give you some notes. We want to make sure that you guys are getting all the benefit of the work that you are doing. So we broke down what some of these different fence companies that were sitting in the room, how they resulted. I'm going to kind of speed through this a little bit, but I do want it to be noticed that sometimes, like, they think it's crazy. Like, so here, these poor guys, I don't mean to pick on Thomas Fence, but I'm going to stop here. They're good people, but their website sucks. And whoever did their website absolutely sucks because if you go look on their homepage, for example, they don't describe themselves as a fence company, not even one time. Fence contractor, 0. Fence installation, 0. They did manage to, and again, this isn't the Thomas Fence people. This is the web designers that they hired only once. Even the word fencing did not appear one time. So you have to tell Google who you are and what you are. You have to use these words. So this is a critical fail. I would recommend that everybody watching this video go back and look at your website, every single page, and see, does it just straight up say like, hey, we're a fence company in, whatever town. I live in Naples, Florida. So I am a fence company in Naples, Florida. We're a fence contractor in Naples, Florida. It's shocking. And then a better job would look like this, how many times it says. There's a lot of different keywords that people can search for. Some of it's really basic: aluminum fence, vinyl fence, wood fence, things like privacy fence, right? All of these words should be represented in your website. If you don't even talk about this stuff, how is Google possibly going to rank you for it? There's location-based searches. Then there's these longer searches. Especially now we all have cell phones where we could just talk into our phone and just say, hey, which fence company near me offers the best warranty? That's a crazy search, but this information is available. Professionals like DotCom and other web professionals, we have access to tools that can show us all the different keywords that people are searching and how much traffic there is for that. And all of those things should end up on the website somewhere. It might be in the titles of a web page. It might be simply an FAQ that's on a page somewhere. It might be part of a blog article, but somewhere, somehow, all of these things need to happen. This number here represents there's 9,400 different combinations of searches that happened just related to fences in the Evansville area last year. Now, many of these searches were probably searched hundreds or even thousands of times, especially something like, fence company in Evansville fence company kind of thing. That was probably searched thousands of times, but that in this list, that's only one combination, right? So there's a lot of traffic out there. So a little game that we played in the room is, what do you call it? Do you call it aluminum fence? Do you call it wrought iron? Do you call it ornamental iron, decorative steel? Now, I know that iron and steel and aluminum, these are not the same thing, but to the general public, the difference is not as obvious, and people use these terms interchangeably. So what do you call it on your website? And you may be shocked to see how big of a difference it actually makes. There is a ton of traffic for aluminum, and wrought iron is still pretty good, and then it starts going down really, really fast. So if you do not call it aluminum fence on your website, you are missing out on a lot of traffic. Now, that doesn't mean you can't also talk about it using other terms as well, for sure. But in fact, you should. You shouldn't just say aluminum fence. You should have maybe pages for other things or sections within aluminum fence that say, a lot of people are interested in aluminum fence might also be interested in taking a look at our wrought iron fence options or something like that. And that's how you get more keywords on the page. Interestingly, again, I'm just using this as an illustration. I don't mean to pick on our friends at Sullivan Fence, but on their aluminum fence page, they have a page on their site about aluminum fence, and on that page, the word aluminum fence was actually only used one time. It's amazing. So that's a problem, because you're competing against other local companies who may have done a better job on their aluminum fence page, showing different photos of aluminum fence and talking about aluminum fence and features of aluminum fence and benefits of aluminum fence and all that stuff. And in that case, our friends at Sullivan would have gotten their butts handed to them. So in that case, I would have said that their website sucks. And certainly the web team that they hired sucks. That's for darn sure. So, there's a lot of ways to say this: ag fence, farm fence, range fence, field fence, right? This goes on and on: horse fence, cow fence, sheep fence. And then, these are subtle differences: rail fence, split rail, diner rail, round rail, farm rail. It just goes on and on: pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, being silly. These are all things that people search. Are you talking about these things on your website? It goes on and on and on. If you want to rank for something, you need to talk about it, and you probably need a page for it. Residential, commercial, farm fence. Do you have a page for residential fence? Because there's a lot of traffic for that. Perimeter fence, privacy fence, security fence. These are all things that I bet most fence companies would love to come up in the search results for. But do you have a page for perimeter fence? Do you have a page for privacy fence? Last year, over 1,000 websites, fence websites that we evaluated last year, less than 2% of those sites had a page for perimeter fence or talked about perimeter fence in any substantial way on their website. And yet, that's a very common search term. We're missing opportunities. And it goes on and on, all the different types. There's some silly searches. Some people just search for white fence or plastic fence or black metal fence. We may not like that as professionals in the fence industry, but you should know that people search for that kind of stuff. You might want to use a little bit of that language on your site to capture the people that are searching for that. It goes on and on. Horse fence, cattle fence, all that stuff. Pool fence is a big one in South Florida. And there are a lot of new searches lately, because of Pinterest, AI, maybe because our cell phones, but there's a huge uptick in searches like modern fences and traditional fences, creative ideas for fences. There's tons, guys. There are hundreds and thousands of search terms that you could rank for, but if you don't have that content on your site, you are not going to win that ranking battle. And then again, I was poking a little fun at our friends from West Fence, that on their entire website, somehow their web people never one time used the word aluminum fence, wood fence, resident, not one time. So I encourage you guys to please go look at your website and hold your web people accountable, because you can't even believe the ridiculous mistakes that they may have made. So let's flip gears for a second, and we're going to talk about SEO and how things are changing in a huge way. This was the part of the presentation which was most interesting to most of the room, because this is brand new stuff. So hold on to your hats. There is a term called SGE, Search Generative Experience, which Google is describing as the most significant shift in Google search results ever. That's how Google's describing it. And that 95% of all search results will be impacted. Notice the date on this. They talked about this on May 14th of 2024, that this was coming, that they were doing this. If you haven't heard about this, if your web team hasn't talked to you about this, or they haven't taken action on this, and it's the most significant shift in search results ever, I would say that they are not doing you a service. I'm sorry, my cat just hit my mouse. All right, have you heard of USI, user search intent? Again, from Google. You can see it right here. I pull it right from Google. That they're trying to decipher what their intent is when they're doing a search. They want to serve up the most useful content possible. So depending on what they search, they're actually going to give different types of results. We're going to go take a look at that here. What are the different intents? Here they are, navigational intent, meaning people are looking for like a specific company. I know I'm looking for abcfence.com. That would be navigational intent. Transactional intent, I'm ready to make a purchase. Somehow the way you searched, Google will determine that you're intending to buy something. Informational intent, you're just looking for information at this point. Google estimates that 80% of all searches are in an informational intent mindset. 80% users are simply seeking information. There are other intents that you can go do a search on Google for what are all the different user intents, and then you can educate yourself there. But how does Google determine search intent? And you're going to see how important this is in just a minute. I'm sorry to geek out on you like this, but this is really, really important. So the actual search phrase that you're using is certainly part of how Google does it. But look at this. Google is checking your browser and search history to determine what your intent is. So if you recently were searching for buying a new puppy or something like that, then when you did a search for, let's say you just did a search for fence, Google's going to twist that around and start showing you more puppy fences, dog fences, kinds of things with the puppy pickets, because Google understands you just got a dog and you're searching for fence. You actually probably want a puppy pickets kind of thing. Google also has access to your social media content and posting. So if all of a sudden you start posting photos of that you just got a new pool installed or something like that, if you do a search for fence, not even pool fence, just fence, Google's going to start showing you more pool fence options. The power of this is amazing, but the impact that it has on you and your website and how things are done is monstrously huge. Google will match it to different content types and formats, and the angle that you take on that content, the way you talk about it. There's a lot going on here, guys. I'm going to show you this in more detail in just a second, but this is critical. And of course, almost everybody is familiar with AI, but what I wanted to show you again, back in May, if you did starting back in May, it's still true today. If you do a search for just simply artificial intelligence, one of the top results that you're going to get on Google is how Google is using AI for generative AI search. Some of the things we're talking about here. So like Google's not keeping this secret. This is out there. This is big. This is huge. And I am willing to bet that your website and your web people have not made any adjustments related to this at all. One more thing, and then we're going to switch gears a little bit. So ChatGPT in 2023 set a record for the fastest growing user rate of all time. 100 million monthly active users just 2 months after launch, like shattered it. So if you are not way up on AI, if you yourself are not comfortable and expert in AI, and if your website isn't taking advantage of AI opportunities, you are already behind. So I just want to make sure that you're clear about that's an important thing. So now we're going to start getting into some of the impacts of this. Just now, I'm shooting this video the first week of December 2024. So it is literally about a week and a half, 2 weeks after this announcement. It's brand new. I gave this talk about 1 week after this announcement. It's all over the place. Google has once or twice, sometimes 3 times a year at most, Google will release such a big update that they call it a core update. And so you can see here, this is right from Google today, August 2024. They had a core update. Well, they had another core update. So that was August. They had another core update in November. And so they had 2 core updates very, very close to each other very recently. And so what's in the core update? So many things, all the things that we're talking about, including they want 0-click searches. Google right now, starting back in July, nearly 60% of all searches on Google are 0-click. This is coming directly from Google. 0-click searches means that they want to keep you on the page. They're giving you information and trying to get you not to click to other websites unless it's a paid ad, in which case they do want you to click because they're going to make money. So This is an actual search that I conducted just a couple days ago about fence. And I want to show you, well, look at this. This is not the old results that you used to get. Now, depending on what you search, you're going to get different kinds of results. So this particular search, you had the Google featured snippets in here, right? This came from a website. Now, this is cool because Google is giving credit to the one company that they got these featured snippets from. This is monstrously powerful for traffic, but is your website giving featured snippets that Google can use? Then the next set was images, right? So are your images set up in a way that will encourage Google to show those images? Then it's video. Then it's the people also ask section. You'll notice there is not one true organic website listing here, which is all Google used to be even just a year ago. So everything has changed hugely. So Google has told us, the web world, that they've given us what they call their structured data and schema markup. So they're telling us like, hey, you've got to change your code. If you want to show up, let's go back here. If you want to show up here in the featured snippets, then you have to use a code in a certain way. If you want your images to show up, there's a different schema. It's different, right? If you want to show up in the videos, you have to add code to your videos that's different than the other codes. And if you want to show up in the people also ask section, you have a different schema that you have to use for that section. So there's a lot of new code that Google has given people. If your website has not been updated or is not currently being updated, then you have zero chance of getting in those Google results. And since Google wants, going back here, they want the zero-click searches, there will come a day not too far from now where you just won't show. So this is a big problem. So this slide here is showing that the schema, I wanted to show it side by side. The schema, as you can see, looks different than regular HTML code because it is very, very different. So this is something that your web team has to learn. This is something that they have to go back and they have to update every single page on your website, every single image within your website, every single FAQ within your website. Every piece of content needs to be rewritten with new code. That's how big of a deal this is. So we just did a little search on for the folks that were in the room for how schema compliant you are. These guys were. All of these .com logos, these are all clients of ours. We have begun this process, but even though we've been working on this, it's hard and it takes a long time. So our guys are still all under 10% compliant, but we're moving in that direction. Everybody else had 0% compliance. Actually, our own website, DotCom Global Media, we haven't even started on ours because we're dealing with our clients first. But everybody else in the room that wasn't a .com client is 0% compliant. So you have to push your web people if you're not working with .com or our other division of .com Commander Bunny. If you're not working with us, you got to check with your web people and make sure that they're updating your code and your schema to reflect these new Google core updates. So all of these changes are not just changing how we do things, but they're changing why we do things. Because Google wants people to scroll. Did you know that Google can track if people just go to your website and they scroll? Google can track that they scroll. Google could track how much they scrolled. Google could track if they clicked on anything. Are they hovering over things? Are they zooming in on things? How long are they taking to read and watch on a video or stay on a page? And Google wants them to take an action. They want to see people get an estimate, make a phone call, those kinds of things. This is what Google wants. The actions of the users on your website tell Google whether this is a quality website or not. We need that to happen. So as a result, why we're doing things and how we're doing things have changed tremendously. And I think we're ahead. I think we're in front of everybody on this. But even where we still are pushing to do more and more and more. So what you're going to notice here This is something that comes up for every fence company. Like, hey, we've got, we have level ground, or we have sloped, or we have hilly, or whatever. So sometimes you have to get in these conversations. Well, we created all this content where people can click more. I'll go to next slide. Well, each one of these clicks is an action that Google likes. So we're forcing people, click, see the next one. This, we can step it, we could slope it, we could rack it, right? There's so many things we could do, but we force people to click. FAQs are an easy one that forces people to click. Like, hey, this is the question, click and unfold. But what we're doing is we're stacking. Stacking is another thing. So we have people like unfold the FAQ, but now there's a video inside the FAQ. So now they have to click the video to start it. They have to click the video to stop it. They're spending time watching it. So now we're stacking the interactions. These are easy and fun. I love this. Anybody could do this, but we have to do it. But what happens is we have these fun little things where if they mouse over, then it flips around to a different photo of Sean. If you mouse over Heather, it would flip over to a silly photo. So what happens is we're seeing, because we're doing these silly little photos, that people are flipping over these things multiple times. They're like, oh, that's cool. I wonder what this guy's doing. Oh, he's wearing sunglasses. That's fun. And this other guy's got a silly, hat on, or whatever it is when you flip over. And so what happens is, just by having some fun and showing some character, we are way increasing the interactions on these pages. You will also notice this would actually be pulsing, that if you click on that you would get additional information about things. And so people start to read this. So instead of just a photo of team members that has 0 actions opportunity, we are creating 30, or I forget how many it is, but it's 30 some odd actions on the average company info page that's taking this, as opposed to 0. Obviously, Google is going to love that. This is an example of a new set of graphics and animations that we are developing right now. So you guys are some of the first people in the world to see these. But you can see these pulses here. We're showing full scenes. And what we're doing is we're encouraging people to click on something and they can zoom in and see graphics and more information. And this is 100% coded to Google's new schema. And so this could be picked up and put into the Google search results, right? And then people start saying, oh, we can do railings and steps here. We can do dumpster enclosures and gates and all kinds of stuff. Like it's decorative trash enclosures and gates and drive gates and walk gates and all these different things. So this is a great thing that our team's working on, that is 100% compliant to the user actions and the Google schema. And I'm really proud of our team for doing this. We can flip when we hover over and show people, like, hey, here's the front here's what this looks like on the front. And then when you mouse over, this is what it looks like on the back, because we all know that some fences look the same and some fences don't. Imagine having a full page of all the different styles that you offered and allow people to hover over it and watch this thing flip so they can see it. What ends up happening is that people flip, and you just start racking up these actions, and you'll kill everybody in your local market who does not have that kind of thing. And we just show a few more. We give people an opportunity to click and zoom in and learn, like, hey, we've got we got a postmaster. That's what that looks like. Or, hey, we put a wood sleeve, like a King Plus method wood sleeve over top of a driven round post, right? So all of these things here's a slide where we can pull the slide down, and then we can uncover and say, hey, what's going on down here? And we can show the difference between a dig and set post versus driving a post. And again, right now we're just showing an example, because everybody drives their stuff a little bit different and sets a little bit different. So we'll change all this information. Some people use blue donuts. Some people don't use donuts at all. Like all of these graphics are created, but the point is that we can create a way for people to interact with our site. So that is it. That was our presentation of Your Website Sucks and Google Hates You, updated for the absolute very latest Google Core updates for the end of the year 2024. Guys, I hope this was helpful. Believe me when I tell you, this is barely scratching the surface of what we know and what we do. So if you have questions or there are things that are left unsaid or unclear, it's totally understandable because we needed to get through a presentation. I just wanted to introduce you to the issues that are happening. And that's why you need to work with a great web partner who knows what's going on so that you can win. Guys, thank you for watching this. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, take care. Bye-bye.